Good evening. Welcome to the September 2nd, 2020 Town Hall meeting to discuss the reopening plan for the Highland Falls Fort Montgomery Central School District. I'm Dr. Frank Schneeboy, Superintendent, and I'm joined by Dr. Andrea Tejedor, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology, and pretty much everything else in the world these days. As we've done over the past 6 weeks, we wanted to spend a couple minutes reviewing our guiding principles. Principle number one has been and remains to ensure the safety and wellness of our students, faculty, and staff. Principle number two is to deliver a high quality instruction to students regardless of the delivery model. Number three is to be flexible and responsive to changing conditions. And number four is to plan for progress, not perfection. Over the past 6 months, we have been working to prepare for our learning community's physical return to school. This preparation has included elements of planning and procurement. In addition, both our systems, physical and process, have been evaluated for readiness, and we have met regularly to discuss issues and concerns and how we can address them. If you missed Monday's board meeting, we did spend some time going through some challenges and barriers to a physical return to school. We began with green slides, which basically mean that we're ready. That included the difference between our online program in the spring versus our online program in the fall. And we know that we have a talented faculty and staff who can adapt and figure out any instructional model that we put before them. The availability of devices, K-12, we know that we are better suited in this than most school districts around us, having had a one-for-one for the past several years, grades pre-K through 12. In addition, we've ordered 100 mobile hotspots for students with connectivity issues, and we anticipate that those will be able to be deployed shortly after the beginning of the school year. Installation of temperature scanners at the school entrances has been completed at the Highland Falls Intermediate School and the Fort Montgomery Elementary School, and upon substantial completion at O'Neill, we'll install them in the entranceways at the high school as well, and we anticipate that will be by next week. And we've worked with our school nurses, principals, and the Department of Health to develop protocols that are aligned with DOH guidance and meet our district needs. Continuing with some areas where we are in good shape, training on health and safety protocols is a work in progress, and we're good. And we've had the assistance of our medical director, Dr. Gergely. The CDC has also developed some great resources, as have the Department of Health for the county and OU BOCES. And those are the materials that we have used and will continue to use, especially as our students come back. And food services during remote instruction, again, that's a work in progress, but we think it's in good shape, especially since we will start serving meals in our remote plan starting on Tuesday. Aramark has a distribution plan for when we are in remote. We'll distribute on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Actually, next week, because Monday's Labor Day, we'll distribute on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Free and reduced breakfast and lunch students will be able to pick up their meals at HFIS. In addition, anyone who would like to procure or purchase meals will be able to do so. And we actually put a form on our website today for the purpose of gathering that information so that we can assess needs and make sure that we can plan for the number of meals appropriately. There's a couple areas where we are in okay shape, but we're not quite there yet. We'll get there, but we just won't be there by next Monday. And that includes some cleaning protocols for non-classroom spaces in regards to who's going to clean an area after a person leaves. And the simple answer to that is that custodians and cleaners wipe and clean our surfaces through the day. We have provided additional trained workers, and we will continue to do so. And our goal is to hire additional staff. Our goal was originally to have those people hired at tomorrow's board meeting on the 3rd of September, but we are still waiting for appointment letters. And once we receive those, we'll be able to have people appointed on the 17th. Our food program went in hybrid. I'd say we're fair on that because it's a difficult task to put together a dual feeding program for when we have students in school and when we have students out of school. But we're confident that Aramark will be able to work up a solution with our faculty and staff as well. Student transportation, bus scheduling, saturation, and routing, that's ongoing. We've met already with West Point Tours. We are working on just one of the constraints to the schedule, which is how do we turn around the buses that are departing at 2:24 at O'Neill to also pick up children at around 3 o'clock at the intermediate school and FMES. We anticipate that we'll have resolutions to that in the next 2 weeks, and we have another meeting scheduled for not this coming week, but the following week with West Point Tours, just to hear what their final plan is. And then we can adjust our protocols in the buildings to make it more feasible to have an orderly dismissal. Recognizing that in the first week of school or first couple weeks of school, there's always delays with transportation. We also anticipate that there will be some additional car traffic at all of our buildings due to families deselecting transportation. We have no idea how much that's going to be, but we do anticipate some additional congestion on Mountain Avenue and 9W. But we are coordinating with the Town of Highlands Police and Highland Falls Police Department, and we'll have a plan for that. They're not envisioning it being too much of an issue, and I trust that the chiefs will work very closely with the districts to mitigate any traffic issues. And the last piece that we're in fair condition on is just the configuration of an app for student periodic COVID screening. We just need to purchase an app and configure it with our school tool data system. It's important that it's something that feeds right into our school tool data, that makes it seamless. Families will get reminders when it's time for them to submit their child's screening questions. And again, it just makes it seamless for families. And we're looking at the next 2 weeks to have that configured and ready to go. But there's also areas that have given us more concern, and we put them in the red category, some of which just concern protocols from the Department of Health that seem to work for businesses and offices. But our guidance from the Department of Health was 50 pages, and I know that for businesses, they were not 50 pages. So we're mindful of that. We also anticipate that schools, grades, classrooms will have some level of shutdown, and it is hard to figure out what the true impact of that will be upon our return. We're concerned about the cleaning of classrooms during occupancy. That is an unresolved issue. While we believe we have enough supplies for that in regards to sanitizing solutions, and we know that our custodial staff will be the ones doing that, it's been a challenge to not schedule consecutive periods. So we have questions to the Department of Health regarding exactly what must be done, because there is a little bit of gray in far as the guidance goes. We know that students can't be in a room while rooms are being disinfected and sanitized. We know that we can't expect students to take a role in that, but we are waiting to just have some clarity from the Department of Health at the state level. And the same idea goes for cleaning after an individual person uses a space. We have rooms that we have multiple teachers in, so how are we going to make sure that the smart board or the desks and things such as that are sanitized in between student usage? Obviously, we will encourage and expect personal hygiene and tidiness among our faculty and staff, but as far as the sanitizing, we still have to drill down into that problem. We're looking at concerns over some position-specific PPE, which would be additional supplies of higher grade surgical type masks for individuals whose position warrants. We know that everybody has to wear masks and remain 6 feet away unless the core function requires it. And when that core function requires a distance that's less than that 6 feet, we want to make sure that our faculty and staff and our children are all safe. In addition, we have looked into and are buying clear face masks for speech and language pathology, primary instruction, and some special ed instructors to help the children as they're developing their language skills. They need to see the mouths of their teachers. Everybody is buying the same items. That's why there's delays for these things, but we're confident that we'll get these things in short order. Then the question about scheduling two different programs, the hybrid and the virtual or online academy. It takes time to develop schedules. I know that we'll address a few questions about why schedules haven't been put out yet and what's the holdup, and we used to have them earlier than this. Yes, we did, and we'll address those concerns. And then the other side is, can we fully duplicate all of our classes and our special education services. We're confident that we can, and we'll continue to work hard to make sure that we do. But there are specialized courses that it's harder to do in a virtual, and it's even harder to do in a hybrid. Then we have some staffing issues and some staffing concerns, namely substitute teachers, substitute custodial workers, and substitute nurses. And again, some questions that we received about, well, how come you didn't anticipate that? You should have known. Actually, we did know, and we've been recruiting substitutes all summer long, and we recruit custodial workers all summer long, and we recruit nurses ongoing, knowing that on a normal year, we have a hard time getting substitutes. But we have identified, again, recruitment, but this is a barrier. Same thing with our custodial workers. If we don't have people in who can help us clean our rooms, then that kind of breaks the chain. If we don't have nurses in who are that first line of triage for our isolation room, that breaks the chain. These are very difficult ones for us to work on. So if anybody knows anybody who'd like to apply as a substitute teacher or a substitute custodial worker or a substitute nurse, please refer them to our website, the Human Resource tab, and we'll try to get them in as soon as possible. We absolutely can use them as a resource. Then the next question is, will or can the health and welfare protocols that have been set out, it's 190 pages, give or take, 144 from state ed and another 50 from the Department of Health, can they truly keep our students and staff safe? We're trusting that they can. The Department of Health is responsible for public health and welfare. We are responsible for the duty of care for the children and the faculty and staff. And we take that responsibility very, very seriously. We are trusting that the health and welfare protocols can keep people safe, but right now I'd still say that's unresolved. Then there's uncertainty about faculty and staff requests for accommodations under federal and state law. We are working through those cases on a case-by-case basis, whether it's for an individual or it's a family member or it's a child care issue. Each of these, it takes time. And there's been questions, well, how many have there been? And I'll be honest with you, we're not going to answer that question. That's a question that is between the district and the individuals who are been submitting those accommodation requests. And we're going to work through each of them, as I said, case by case. We recently uncovered some concerns about our ventilation system, and if you watched the Board of Ed meeting on Monday, we went through this. Upon the completion of our summer cleaning, we identified a number of units not functioning properly in each of our buildings. So we have solicited a quote and have entered into an engagement agreement with our HVAC company. They're going to do a ventilation audit of every facility and every room of our buildings. They're going to fix what's broken. And then in addition, we have ordered and expect to have delivered shortly some portable filtration units, which will increase air quality. And then the always uncertain issue of funding. And in this district, it's magnified by impact aid. But our July payments were withheld. We had 20% of our high cost aid withheld. We are hoping that the federal government will come through and provide a fix for this. The district does have some reserves, but that would be a one-time solution that would be very dangerous. And if we do not get some funding relief from the federal government, we would be looking at significant cuts either this year or next year. So we are hoping, I would even say we're praying that the federal government will come out with a new relief packet that provides additional monies for state, local governments, and especially for schools. Turn it over to Dr. Tejedor to just go over our plan for instruction in the beginning of the year.
So Dr. Shiboy is sharing a slide with our schedule for the start of the school year. Today, September 2nd, we are just completed our second day of professional learning for the faculty and staff. Tomorrow and Friday will also be days for professional development. We're focused on technology support, new technologies that we've procured to encourage student engagement, curriculum, and cooperation and collaboration. And we'll also be looking at safety and health of our students and their well-being in all learning environments. We've also looked at the improvements that are going to be pushed out through Google Meet and how teachers can use those new features to establish connections with students in small group settings. They're not quite available yet. Starting September 8th, Tuesday, next Tuesday, that will be the initial day for our students to meet with our teachers via Google Meet. And no students will attend class physically. It will be virtual for all of our students. Families will be notified of the students' schedules this week so that they know how to connect with their teachers on September 8th. Teachers will connect with classes online during the week to get reacclimated to what virtual learning looks like this year. The purpose of these initial meets really is to build rapport, get used to these online learning routines, and to get to know the students. And then September 14th through November 6th, we will continue with a full virtual learning schedule, Monday through Friday, instruction for all students. Wednesdays is being reserved as a separate day for teachers to meet with students in small groups. Also, the teachers will be facilitating a community circle time where they'll have time to talk to students, get to know them better, see what's happening in their lives, and do a check-in on their well-being. And also, it will be time for the teachers to meet and plan for the virtual instruction and reach out to families as needed.
So we've gone through over the past 6 weeks, just the governor's requirements to open our schools. Again, New York State standards must be taught. All the Department of Health guidelines for safety must be met. We have to work directly with the Orange County Department of Health and Orange County Executive and follow prescribed testing requirements. The goal would be to identify any COVID illness and minimize the chance of spread. Working with the Department of Health and Orange County Executive to follow contact tracing procedures. And it's interesting, and I did put this in bold, that the governor still talks about testing and contact tracing in the context of schools, and both of these are under the direction and the control of the medical field and the Department of Health. It is important to recognize that those are protocols under the auspices of the Department of Health. We will work very collaboratively with them, but it's just important to recognize that the governor still is providing some information that is confusing to districts. How? So we'll maintain constant contact with the Department of Health and the county executive now and throughout the school year. We have direct contact with the county executive. We have direct contact with the epidemiologist and Department of Health Director of Nursing. There's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week DOH hotline and a dedicated email for communication. As far as our health and safety preparations, this is nothing new. If you've watched any of our town halls, temperature scanning, survey questions, use of scanning equipment at our school entrances. Every staff member will be scanned every day as they walk in. COVID screening daily for faculty, staff, and visitors, and periodic for students. Minimizing visitors, we talked about how that will change some things. Classrooms and office spaces have the ability for people to clean their hands either with soap and water in a sink or a sanitizing area with a sanitizing solution. Social distancing, we just received guidance tonight from the Department of Health and the county mandating again social distancing and masks. So we'll be putting up signs and graphics for appropriate separation in common hallways, etc. In addition, social distance signs and graphics have been ordered through OU BOCES, and upon delivery will be installed. We ordered 700 of the little markers that say 6 feet, because we have plenty of spots for them. They need to go outside of every classroom, every office, every washroom, inside classrooms, just to make sure that everybody knows what that distance is as our approaches to our buildings. Again, encouraging hand hygiene, hand washing, mask wearing. We have plenty of masks on site. Cleaning protocols enhanced with documentation and education that will occur in collaboration with BOCES, and frequent sanitizing during the day and each night. And again, if anybody knows of anybody who'd like either part-time job or sub work in that area, please let us know. We have protocols for if somebody gets sick or arrives at school. We actually posted a letter from our nurses, and I appreciate all of our nurses for the work that they did. The nurses will determine whether an individual gets sent to who has symptoms consistent with COVID will go to the isolation room or to a regular sick area. Isolated individuals will be supervised and sent home. We have asked numerous times to make sure people update their emergency contact information, and we must insist that people have the ability to have their child retrieved within 30 minutes. That's an absolute insistence. The law speaks to immediate, and we know that people can't immediately teleport to school and bring people home, but we're asking for 30 minutes. That's the only way we're going to keep this illness at bay. Medical screening and notification to the Department of Health hotline number. They have dedicated nursing staff for COVID. Again, we're in direct contact with them. Isolation protocols are in place. And again, please don't come to school if you're ill. And that means if you had a fever and it goes away with Tylenol, you're still ill. And we ask people to keep that in mind. This isn't a regular school year where little Frankie will feel okay and be able to make it through the day. This is COVID-19. Health and cleanliness. Again, we expect students will be responsible for keeping themselves and their desks clean. That's different than sanitized, but being organized, being tidy. Teachers will work to educate students on good hygiene, and we have some nice resources on masks and hand washing. We have signs up. Teachers will help and supervise in order to keep the learning environment safe, and we'll have additional cleaning staff to help sanitize common areas and monitor needs around our schools. And again, we have cleaning supplies in stock, and we have more on order. Transportation requirements. Our buses will require masks. We will require safe distances in seating. We will have 1 student per seat, so we can put about 22 students on the bus. Students will be assigned to their seat. We will have organized protocols for loading and unloading buses. We ask families to, again, check their children's temperature prior to them leaving for the bus, because by the time they get to school with a fever, it is too late. So we need families to take responsibility for that. We will continually evaluate transportation cleaning and safety protocols. Those guidance and guidelines changed again even just last week when we heard that now you can have hand sanitizer on buses as long as it is fixed to a dispenser or a pole on the bus. And so these, as we've mentioned many times, these protocols and this guidance changes very often. We will encourage social distancing at bus stops, and we need families to help us with that. The West Point Tours has cleaning protocols for nightly and between routes. And again, we want to make sure that those protocols are being followed. And again, we do encourage families who have the ability to have their students be driven. So it'll just actually make a smaller density on the buses. Food service requirements, again, grab and go. We'll eat in classrooms and designated areas and buildings. Cashless transactions, we use the PayPAMS system, and on our website you can find information on that. When we have trays and are back in the building, we'll use disposable trays and flatware. While not environmentally good for the environment, it is something that during the pandemic we have to do. Eating areas will be social distanced, and masks will be allowed to be taken off when that enhanced social distance for meals is running. And again, to the extent that we can, we encourage people to use outdoor locations, and building specific plans for meals will be shared by the principals. And again, food services, if we're closed, food distribution at HFIS with free and reduced lunch families who want to, for individuals with free and reduced lunch, and families who want to purchase lunches may do so. As far as classroom environment, we've gone over this a number of times. Small class size, masks are required, minimize student movement, frequent hand washing breaks, good personal hygiene, keep yourself and your space clean. Grades count. This work that we're doing, whether it's virtual or hybrid, or when we ultimately get all of us back to school, grades count, and we want to make sure that everybody treats the academics very seriously. And attendance counts, both in person and online and remote. And there's a couple questions that we'll address on that. And we need to work together. We need to keep each other safe, and we need to keep focused on learning. So as we have done with all of our town halls, we solicited questions and we'll be addressing those questions. In addition, at Monday's Board of Ed meeting, the board asked for bi-weekly updates on our progress towards bringing our red areas to green. We will do those updates at the board meeting starting at or on the 17th. In addition, we will continue to do town halls and welcome questions at our email at reopening@hffmcsd.org. So Dr. Theodore, I guess we could take a few questions. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. So first off, we want to thank everyone who submitted questions. Over the past days, we have received both questions and comments. Some of the comments were critical and negative, and some were supportive and positive, and we're grateful for both. We also received many questions. There are some that have been asked a number of times, and a number of times even with just today's submissions. So we'll ask our principals and our directors to add these to our FAQ page, and we'll update that document on the website. So I think I'll jump right into the first question. There's a couple questions about why we were surprised by some of our red areas. And we did discuss this briefly at the board meeting, but I do want to say that we understand the frustration that families are feeling. There's nobody who wants to delay our in-person return, even our hybrid, whether that's our administration, our teachers, our Board of Education, our parents, our children. We all want to be back in school. We've been communicating our plans as we have been because we truly thought we could address these issues and these issues that we face and return to with the appropriate safeguards in place. Unfortunately, we realized last week that some of the most significant barriers we faced were worse than we knew. Some of that's due to the fact that we've not fully occupied our spaces since March, and we sealed off our classrooms after the initial disinfection and sanitation. When we reopened them to do our summer cleaning and our staff focused on preparing for September, it was only as we were finalizing our rooms, comparing square footage to desk counts to the numbers of students assigned to the rooms, that we fully realized that we had univents that were not functioning. As far as the other barriers, substitutes and positions, this is an issue we've always had and we continually recruit. Again, we are frustrated by this. We share the frustration. Our goal is to get our children back in school as soon as possible, safely. There was a question about moving the high school bell schedule back. We're not ready to fully address that question. It is something after we made the decision to go full remote for 10 weeks that the principals have started to engage in. And if there's going to be a change to the schedule, the principals will be communicating that. It is a challenge because we have shared staff between our buildings, between the high school and HFIS, and between HFIS and the elementary school, and adjusting those times would adjust beginning times and end times for faculty, which creates lots of different challenges for faculty, staff, parents. And in addition, if and when sports come back, we want to make sure that we have the ability for our students who are remote to still be able to participate in those. But again, we're not closing the door on that question. It's just something that we've had really one day to fully consider what that might look like, because when we were only going to be remote for 3 weeks, it didn't make sense to have two schedules. We made the decision on Monday evening, and Tuesday we had faculty and staff here for training, and today is Wednesday. So I don't want to just close the door on it, but I just wanted to address it briefly. So the next question is a great question. It says, is it possible to have some type of program for students who receive lunch on a daily basis or pre-packed for 2 days, like Wheels on Meals? Parents and students can pre-order, still charge to accounts. The reason for suggesting this is that my child will be home by his or herself when I have to work, and there's no transportation to the feeding program that you're offering during the day. And first off, thank you for that question. I'm sure that you're not alone. I will let you know that throughout the period from March to June, we did deliver quite a few meals to people's homes. So it's important that we know what the needs are. Earlier today, the Food Services Department posted a Google form to allow families to order their school meals through Aramark. So if they have free and reduced lunch, it's very easy. But if not, then we need families to register for PayPAMs because we are cashless as far as our meal procurement. But individuals who have questions about their ability to pick up their meals can please reach out to Kathy Coakley, our food services director. Her number is 446-9575. That's the regular trunk number here at the high school. Her extension is 2890. We will work with families to make sure that their children have access to meals. And just a reminder, anybody who has yet to complete an application for free and reduced lunch can find the application on the district's website. We know that there's a need out there, and we know that it's going to be challenging if we don't have people face to face to get all of that need met. And while people's eligibility continues through the month of September, it will expire on September 30th. So please, if you have not done so already, you can find the free and reduced lunch application on our website, and we encourage anybody who has that need to please complete it. And even if you don't know if you'll qualify and you have a need, still apply. The worst that could happen is you spend 15 minutes applying only to find out that you're not eligible. I'd rather you do that than just presume that you're not eligible. Dr. Theodore, next one's for you.
Sure. We have a question about if 100% virtual through November 9th is planned, why are students only going to school 4 days out of the week? And would it be possible to do 5 days of instruction? So we will use the time on Wednesday to connect with students individually or in small groups as needed for academics. In addition, the students will have a designated time on Wednesdays to check, and the teachers will be meeting with the students to facilitate community circle time. And that purpose is for students to have a safe space to connect with their peers and share what is happening in their lives or any concerns that they may have. This time may also be used for teachers to reach out to parents or guardians if that's necessary. Also, the reduced screen time on Wednesday is something that many people have been asking for throughout the week. They're concerned about the extended time that students will be online and in front of a computer, and that break on Wednesday, while they'll still be connecting with representatives from the school district, it will give them a break from that extended screen time as well.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Next question says, have you considered alternate options to address concerns with disinfection? For example, busing students to school for half day. The first half in-person, students would cover classes that they would most benefit from in person, such as music or science labs. Then they could return home, which would eliminate the issue for space for lunch. The remainder of the day can be virtual, focusing on classes that are more conducive to remote learning, discussion-based. So yeah, we actually did. We looked at numerous alternates and alternatives in regards to disinfecting classroom space. As we've been saying since July, guidance changes often, and we continue to hope for some clarification. It might enable us to use spaces more rapidly than every other period. We've just not received that information back. When we first began to discuss our programs, we looked at this for some subjects, such as core subjects. But there were barriers to being able to run our program as a half day because lab courses and music run throughout the day for all of our students. It's not that they just run in the morning or they just run in the afternoon. And in addition, reduced occupancy of space basically means that we can only teach half of our children in those spaces at a time anyway. And it has just been a complicated problem for us, or issue. I'll stress it, every school district is different. People are sending us comments and questions saying, well, if this district can do this, how come you can't? And this one's in the paper and this one, and I get it. I get it. You look at the paper and you see that a large district can do this. There are a number of districts that have much more space than we do. There are a number of districts that have much more newer facilities than we do. And that makes things easier for them to do in some sense. But there are also a number of districts, I think there's 5 now, that have pushed their programs, their remote programs out further. There are 4 right in our BOCES that have returns that are anticipated for all their students, anticipated to be later than what we're planning, including schools that are larger than us, about our size, as well as smaller. I wish there was a one-size-fits-all consideration, but there isn't. Again, we are doing what we think is appropriate and safe for our children in this district. And while we understand that there are things going on in different schools, in the near and the far, we'll continue to make decisions that we think are appropriate for the health and safety of our children and our faculty and staff. This one begins with a comment. Nobody has clearly answered the question about offering the SAT on October 3rd. Okay, we have addressed the question, and I don't know if the answer was what people wanted, but so it is scheduled on the College Board site, but I'm concerned that O'Neill will cancel late in the fall and leave students without an option. Please commit or cancel so that families can plan to register elsewhere. I'm going to say this. If we can offer the SAT on October 3rd, we will. We have to remember that if we're a testing site, we cannot exclude enrollees from outside of our school district, which means that we're bringing other people in. Ms. Brand and the guidance staff are working on how we can still host this SAT, knowing that it is one of the very few options around the area. I've heard stories that schools are canceling and that families are going to have to, go hours to find an SAT. We are working on the logistics to see if we can manage this. We know that we would require more proctors for more rooms, which on a Saturday can be a challenge. If we can do this, we will. If we cannot determine a viable plan and gain a commitment from proctors within the next week, we will cancel. When will we know our children's schedules? I'd like to know why schedules are not complete and released when we have been planning for several weeks for a remote start to school. How is it that schedules are not made available, allowing time for troubleshooting parent and student concerns before school begins, instead of sending them out after school staff is out for a long holiday weekend? We mentioned on Monday, and as we've continued to mention at our town halls, this year's schedule is a challenge. While we were planning for a remote start to the year, we were also planning for our hybrid. Both of these schedules are based on the same master schedule. So it's been the challenge of developing a high school schedule where rooms are not used more than once, where students cannot eat in the cafeteria, with limits on room capacity of approximately 12 students to a room at once. These challenges are great. We've also worked to try to maintain all of our course offerings. Our master schedule was locked last week at a fulfillment rate of about 95%. That's pretty good. But the most difficult part of any master schedule is bridging that last 5%. This is where a lot of personal touch and contact between the guidance counselors and the students and the families happen. A lot of phone calls that Frankie can't get into this class, Mrs. Sheboy, so he's got a choice between these two. In a typical year, we would have locked that schedule at 95% in late June or early July, and we would have spent the end of July and early August on those conflicts, and we would have been able to send out schedules certainly last week, or at the beginning of last week. We don't send them out too early on purpose. But this year that wasn't possible. We didn't even get guidance from the state on what kind of program we could have until late July. We weren't even told that we could return to school until August 7th. That then necessitated basically starting over with our course selections. Our course selections get put into the computer when our students select the courses throughout the spring. But we had to basically start over. So I know it's late, and I know the frustration. I share your frustration. I told Ms. Brand one day, I woke up in the middle of the night worrying about the master schedule. But I have to applaud the work that our high school counseling staff and what the administration has been doing to solve these issues and preserve our program. It's been a challenge, to be sure. Dr. Theodore, I think we'll give you the next one so I can take a sip of water.
Sure. So we have a question about what is the expectation for classroom teachers at the high school level when students are struggling? Over the past 4 days, the teachers have been working to learn about the new schedule and to learn about new protocols and new systems that we're putting in place. The teachers will communicate with students' guidance counselors to coordinate a response for students who are struggling. In addition, the teachers are expected to respond to emails from students or their parents so they can address the students' needs.
Thank you. The next question, I'm not sure what level of students' parents sent it, and I would encourage them just to reach out to the principals, but I'm going to give a generic answer to it. Will there be some kind of adjustment to PE graduation requirements? That tells me it's a high school parent. The simple answer is there has been no change to physical education graduation requirements from New York State. Students still have to earn half credit per year for each year of the 4 years, and therefore they would earn 2 credits. But if there is a specific question, certainly somebody could reach out to the guidance counselor. They can filter that to Ms. Crow. Again, there's been no change. New York's one of the requirements that we had on a slide said that we have to follow all the New York State standards for all of our courses. There was another question about what changed between our last town hall and the board meeting on the 31st. We did discuss that pretty clearly and thoroughly in the presentation. So I'm gonna pass on that one, but are parents going to be provided with more detailed description of what needs to be accomplished to reopen schools? For example, tasks, metrics, timelines, etc. The Board of Education, as I indicated in the slide, has asked for updates from the administration on where we are in regards to getting back. We'll be providing those updates bi-weekly to the Board of Education at Board of Education meetings. Where we have definitive timelines, we will provide them. Where they're indeterminate, we can't. But that being said, our goal is to get our students physically back to school as soon as possible. We expect to address a number of these issues fairly quickly. Others will be more challenging. We also recognize that changing circumstance may lead to the identification of new challenges. We recognize that, but we will put our energies into the greatest challenges that we currently face, namely the staffing issues that we have as far as making sure we have adequate substitutes for all of our positions, our ventilation systems, and just cleaning up our protocols to make sure everybody will be safe. And again, to that note, anyone who is interested in serving as a substitute teacher, a substitute custodial worker, substitute nurse, please contact us. Thank you.
So we have different questions about meetings and classes and the virtual environment. There are, what is the plan for individual assessment of the learning experience besides grades? Will this assessment be conducted in stride to make necessary adjustments if needed? So we've added many different digital tools that can be used for different levels of assessment. For instance, formative assessment will be conducted using real-time tools to gauge student learning in the moment. Tools like Pear Deck, Smart Learning Suite Online, Padlet, these all allow us to collect information on student learning during the classes, so teachers can create exit tickets that could be administered before the students leave the class. In addition, the teachers can use Google Forms for multiple choice short answer questions. The Google form can be locked and the students can answer those questions. We're also administering benchmarking in grades kindergarten through 8th using iReady. And teachers can also gather with individual students, small groups of students during class using Breakout Room feature that will ultimately be available in Google Meet and also on Wednesdays to assess student understanding. Absolutely, adjustments will be made as we progress through this. The next question asked is, will the teachers be available for in-person meetings and conferences if requested? Teachers are available now in the same way they have been previously. If a parent needs to connect with a teacher, they should email the teacher or call the main office of the school. Meetings can be scheduled using Google Meet. This is the format that will be used for open house and parent-teacher conferences, anything that's scheduled before November 9th. We also have a question about how will the overall assessment of the virtual learning experience be conducted? Will parents and students be able to provide real-time feedback? And the district will be sending out surveys to students, parents, and teachers at the end of the week of September 21st to get feedback on the initial virtual learning experience.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Next question for me was, what is the plan to get students and parents more involved in providing feedback and input into the plans moving forward? So we welcome questions and feedback from students and parents and community members for that matter through our email address. It should still be on the slide. Over the course of the past 6 weeks, we have received hundreds of comments and over 100 questions regarding our plans for reopening. We'll continue to collect these and incorporate the questions into our presentations and address them in our Q&A during our presentations. Next question, if I can, I'll keep. What is the cost saving of conducting the first semester virtually? Savings in transportation, cleaning supplies, maintenance, club activities, janitorial support. So first off, we're not planning on conducting the first semester virtually. It's the first 10 weeks. That being said, we do anticipate some savings potentially in transportation and school security costs. Insofar as cleaning supplies, we still have to clean and sanitize and maintain the building and the facilities, whether we have students or not. Our faculty and staff have been and are in the buildings every day. We're looking at our extracurricular activities. Our hope is still to be able to offer robust extracurricular activities for all of our students. Some of our programs are obviously going to look different, but we value our programs, and once we work out ways to maintain our offerings in a safe manner that preserves their core functions, we will offer them. So we don't envision much of a savings in costs from clubs. As far as custodial services are concerned, we need more, not less.
So we have a question. What is the plan for helping students who are already known to struggle with the virtual learning environment based on the results of last spring, and who can parents talk to ensure there is a plan in place for these students? Parents should reach out to their child's guidance counselor for support and with specific questions related to the child's educational program and any specific concerns related to learning in the spring. For students who did struggle, the guidance counselors will be reaching out to those students to find ways that they can help them to be more successful. Another question is, what is the screen time expectation for high schoolers? Are they going to be logged into the computer linking to classroom meetups the whole period, every class, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday? Well, that depends on the student's schedule. If the student has a study hall, that experience might give them a break in the day. At the high school, we are running a structured 8-period day. There is an 8-minute break between classes as opposed to the usual 3 or 4-minute passing time. In addition, lunch is scheduled from 11:30 to 12 o'clock every day for all students. And then we have a question, is there going to be a permanent virtual schedule put out for teachers and students? The virtual schedules are included in our reopening plan that can be found on the website. However, I will work with the principals to post these schedules on the school websites tomorrow, and each school is running a structured virtual schedule. Will there be new official schedules for classes put out this week? Our kids are supposed to start virtual learning on Tuesday, and I'm still not sure what time they're supposed to log in Tuesday morning. So Highland Falls Intermediate School students, grades 3 through 5, will receive a phone call from the classroom teacher with information about next week and how to connect. Students in grades 6 through 8 can find student schedules on the parent portal in School Tool. For Fort Montgomery Elementary School, again, teachers will be calling families on the best way to connect on Tuesday. And at the high school, schedules will be available on School Tool on Saturday. The next question, why did you decide on so much synchronous learning for an all virtual environment? The current schedules are based on feedback we received from parents, teachers, and students in response to the remote learning experience that was organized in the spring. Overwhelmingly, respondents urged us to provide students with more synchronous instruction in lieu of prepared asynchronous activities. As a result, we built our current schedule to maximize the time that students would have live with teachers. Our next question, regardless of when we receive guidance from the state, how will teachers ensure that students will virtually receive the preparation they need beginning now for AP exams and Regents, as they did not in the spring? There are many disruptions to the learning environment and program in the spring, for sure. Our schedules have changed dramatically since the spring. Specifically at the high school, we have structured 8-period day for synchronous instruction 4 days a week. The teachers are no longer responding to an unknown learning environment at this point. They are accustomed to using Google Meet for synchronous instruction. In addition, they have more tools like a document camera or a second monitor they can use to share content and manage their classrooms, virtual classrooms, more easily. And they have new digital tools to engage students in learning that simulate a collaborative classroom environment. In addition, all the teachers involved in AP or Regents courses are preparing for instruction as a Regents or an AP prep-based curriculum. All right, some more questions. To simulate a classroom environment and promote collaboration, what measures such as breakout rooms will teachers take? All of the teachers have been trained on how to use Google Meet for effective synchronous instruction. We first offered that in the spring on March 17th and 18th. We offered professional development for teachers on how to prepare synchronous instruction and what that might look like. However, Google Meet at that point fell short of our expectations for what we wanted to do in terms of breakout groups and small group collaborations. That said, Google has been slow to push out the features that allow for a more dynamic learning environment. The breakout room feature, back channel or Q&A or polling, and the ability to control your background will not be released until October, which is very frustrating for everyone. In the meantime, the teachers do now have access to collaborative learning tools that allow students to engage in synchronous discussions in a digital platform. For example, Google applications like Docs and Slide allow students to collaborate. In addition, there's other tools like Padlet that can be used to share ideas and resources. Our next question, what will test taking look like in a virtual academy, and how will teachers prevent cheating? Teachers have the ability to lock student browsers so they cannot open other windows while taking a test. In addition, the teachers will require students to have their cameras on while taking a test. We are exploring several options for remote proctoring systems that capture images of student screens while they're taking a test, streams video of students, or enables the proctor to view the page the students are on. The software also allows teachers to view login, logout information, exam access question, navigation, answer responses. But that said, there are also more authentic ways other than tests for students to show what they have learned through demonstrations and applications. Pressure and stress are key drivers of cheating behaviors, and students today are experiencing a lot of both. So students who feel connected and supported and encouraged are generally less likely to cheat. That is why at the start of our school year in all 3 schools, we're focused on the social and emotional well-being of our students and working to create responsive and caring learning environments.
Dr. Taylor, you can take a break for a minute.
I will.
Are decisions being made based on fears or facts? Last meeting it was determined, quote, unsafe, end quote, based on board and local pediatrician. What's the basis behind his concern? Have COVID-19 numbers increased since kids are going to parks and pools and lakes and eating in restaurants? If numbers are not increasing, then why is it feared that congregating in a school with a mask is more unsafe than kids eating in a restaurant with 50 people in close quarters not contracting the virus? Complicated question. I would say that Dr. Gergely can speak for himself, but I would say his concern over what this virus can do to our children is what gave him pause and asked the district to consider the delay. I respect Dr. Gergely immensely. So I would also say that our decisions are made by facts. We take advice We take guidance from our district physician, from the Department of Health, the Department of Education. The guidance documentation from New York State Education Department is about 145 pages. Guidance document for the Department of Health, which changes fairly regularly, fairly irregularly, is about 50 pages. I'm going to guess, I don't know for sure, that the guidance documents for opening a restaurant or a park or something like that is probably shorter. We are dealing with the health and safety and welfare of your children, of our faculty and staff. We take that responsibility pretty seriously. So I don't believe it's being made by fear. We're going by the guidance of our physician, Department of Health, Department of Education. And the question about our numbers increasing as kids go back to parks and pools and lakes, et cetera, I think you can look nationally and see what's happening in colleges. And the governor said the other day that what is happening in colleges, he expects is going to happen in schools. That was our governor who said that. I think that was Monday. We share that concern. And it's a real concern.
We have a question about student absences. So we, regular school wouldn't allow more than 18 absences or 10% of the school year. Now that it is virtual with working parents struggling for childcare and possibly inability to guarantee daily 8 to 3 logins, what is expected and what is allowed excused absences. So, and then there's another question related to that. If a child has 3 to 4 classes to log into a day and misses 1 out of 4, are they marked absent for the entire day? So we want our students to be in school. We do not allow or disallow students to have more than 18 absences. A 10% threshold is the standard for concern or to raise red flags. Again, research shows that students who miss more than 10% of schools are more likely to fall behind in their academics. If a student has an excused absence, this should be reported to the school like it always was. Attendance at the high school is being taken at 11:17 each day. That is the homeroom period. If the student is there, they are marked present. Attendance will also be taken during each class. If a student is absent for classes repeatedly, then someone from the school will be reaching out to the family to see if there are concerns.
Thanks, Dr. Taylor. So just a couple more questions. I'm going to read this one exactly how it's written. Is it true that teachers refuse to return and threaten to, quote, use up all their sick time collectively, end quote, which is capitalized, real reason it isn't opening in September? No, there's absolutely no truth to that. Our teachers, our faculty, our staff, our professionals, they want to be with our students. They want our students in school. Anybody who is sharing this rumor is spreading mistruths and misinformation. Again, there is no truth to that statement. I don't know what the genesis of it is, but it is mistruth and misinformation. The last question of the evening, and we do appreciate all the questions that came in. Why during the virtual town halls does it seem like you read some questions and skip some of them? Well, I don't know that that's true, but I haven't watched the town halls much because I've been on them. We get many, many questions prior to each town hall. Sometimes they come in as late as 6 o'clock in the afternoon. This particular question and the ones just previous came in well after 5. Our last submissions tonight, again, came in after 6 o'clock. When that happens, we sometimes don't have the opportunity to organize them so that repeat questions are combined. So sometimes we'll just read through them and we'll say, we answered that one. And sometimes there's a very long introduction to questions. There's more commentary than questions. Sometimes we'll read that commentary. If it's a value add to the question, we will. And sometimes we won't. Sometimes we'll just get right to the question. We value the questions. We believe that we have addressed nearly all of them as we've been doing the town halls. There's a couple that we need to return to, and when that's the case, we say we're going to get back. There's also a couple times that we've had a question about an individual student or an individual circumstance, and of course we're not going to read that. That would be absolutely inappropriate. So as we go through these, it might seem like we are reading through and skipping things because, again, if I've answered a question already in the presentation, or I've answered a question already in the FAQ, or I've answered a question already in tonight's Q&A, I'm probably not going to go back and answer it again. If it's something that's just filled with commentary in the beginning of a question, we're going to drill down to the question. So I hope that addresses that one. We're at about the end of our hour. I want to thank Dr. Tejedor again for being here. I want to thank everybody who took the time out of their evening to join us. Our goal is to share information with these town halls. We will continue to do our town halls. We welcome questions at our email at reopening@hffmcsd.org. As always, Stephen Klein is not on the camera, but he has been instrumental in making sure that the quality of our presentations has been improved since our first one, and we couldn't do this without him. So as I've said at every opportunity over the last 6 months, as I've closed, be safe and be well, and thank you.